hello. It's the Holy Hour, the bi-weekly all Cure podcast. How's it going, Cure fans and other people? Welcome, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Gavin, and we're happy to have you back or have you here for the first time. We're going to do a little Cure talking, and we got a great show for you today. We got a kind of throwing it back. It's been a little while since we've had a full-on origin tale, as we like to do occasionally here on the show, where we find someone and talk about where the Cure started with them and where they're at now with the Cure. And I was lucky enough to sit down and talk to one of my good friends and now bandmate, Erik. And we kind of hit the ground running with this one. So I needed to put a little something on the top here just to introduce it all properly. But just an all-around great guy, as you'll hear. And just really, I was kind of wondering, because he really wanted to make it clear that he didn't feel like he fit in the Cure diehard, or was worried that he didn't, he wasn't sure how nerdy we were going to get with the Cure conversation, as a lot of people are skeptical to want to sit down and talk to me about Cure stuff. But he really did his homework, as you'll hear. He knows his shit. So he's really been diving in, and he said in the past year or so has really kind of tried out a lot more old Cure and new Cure, and just stemmed off of what he was already familiar with. So we'll get into all that. I do have to also apologize when he came over to record. The initial plan was to totally sneak off and record while our wives hung out with my kid, and we were going to be a little more isolated, but due to weather and other factors, we ended up just kind of going off into the side room here, and there was a little bit of kid chatter going on in the background. His wife is amazing, and of course not the type to just hang out quietly with a kid, and she's having a great time, and my kid just loves hanging out with her. And of course you hear a few little chirps in the background from him being super excited to hang out with Erik's amazing wife. And so I just wanted to throw that out there if you're hearing some strange noises, but don't worry, it's not too distracting, or I don't think so. But fairly good chance I'm just extremely used to it at this point. So Erik and I talking Cure, talking bass lines, and a whole lot more here on the Holy Hour.
But that's why I wanted to kind of preface this conversation with the fact that, and I hope you emphasize this point, that I am a relatively new Cure fan.
Yeah. Well, let's officially dive in if we're not already officially in.
I think we've...
Are we officially in?
Have you been recording this?
We're recording, but yeah, we can always say, well, thanks for joining us. If you're catching up right now, this is the episode of the Holy Hour. I'm here with my good friend Erik. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here in the Holy Hour podcast studios.
Yeah, this is where all the magic happens on a Sunday. The holiest of Holy Hour episodes. We don't do much Sunday recording for the Holy Hour, but it's time to pay our respects to the Cure. I don't make you drink blood or anything. This is a fairly laid-back ceremony. If you've caught on by now, Erik's a newer Cure listener, but
yep,
he's a musician, friend,
definitely friend.
World-class traveler.
For the listeners out there, you probably can't see the air quotes around a musician or
like
bass
player. You're
player.
being too modest. And yes, we're playing in a band together now, so there's been some good crossover and a lot of music talk lately, and figured we should rope you into this Cure world since you're playing bass in our band. And
again, playing bass.
Even band, we could probably put quotes
even band, yes.
But
a loose arrangement of friends coming together to play music.
Yeah. So before we dive into the music and Cure talk, I think the Cure disclaimer had to be thrown out there that you wouldn't consider yourself a diehard Cure expert at this point in your life.
Absolutely. I only before meeting you and playing music with you, my only experience with the Cure was the Disintegration album, which came to me through an older sibling as kind of a hand-me-down. As most I think people find when they discover new music as they're growing up. And then I didn't really delve any further past that until maybe about a year ago. You made me a fantastic mix CD, which one of the opening tracks was the song Grinding Halt from Three Imaginary Boys, which on first listening, I thought was a Clash song.
Yeah, that's way different.
And I was very positive it was a Clash song until looking into it, and I didn't realize The Cure actually made music like that.
Yeah, it's that one first album.
Which sent me down a rabbit hole of going through and realizing there was a lot more to this band than just kind of that really heavy emotional...
Yeah, because that's a
kind of dark stuff.
Quite a pairing if you just have Disintegration on your mind, and then that song is very like post-punky, or it's like totally different vibe than Disintegration for sure. So, yeah, that's awesome. So no real. Did you see any like the videos? Had the visual or anything of like the Cure? I'm always curious about how much that influences. Like back when you heard Disintegration and stuff, had you seen any like the videos or had the associations of Robert Smith being the
beyond
the
gloom
I feel like that kind of fills in a lot of people's like idea of the Cure before they even really hear them.
Besides music videos of hit singles for things that I had seen on YouTube growing up. Friday I'm in Love, Just Like Heaven, that kind of thing.
So those are kind of in there, but
not much past that. No, not much past the singles.
Yeah,
or their most popular songs, which I didn't realize there was an entire catalog of this deep, rich.
A lot of it, and vastly different. Yeah, so just in those two examples, even of like Disintegration and Grinding Halt. It's crazy the difference of that, but then even if you look at their greatest hits versus their deep cuts and everything, there's like so many different. Which is why we're on episode 80 something of this show.
Your podcast,
There's a lot to go into. But so thank you for being a great sport and diving into this world without because that's a lot of people don't want to even talk to me because they think we're gonna just talk about B-sides and get super nerdy with it. But we don't have to do that. We'll talk about bass guitar stuff. Would be kind of the main theme. We thought it'd be cool since we're playing music together and you're playing bass and. Cure is kind of known for having some cool bass shit in their songs. So
absolutely.
We figured that'd be a cool main theme, but we would love to address many topics along the way, good listener. let's backtrack then. So you are playing bass. You're a musician, as we've declared. We've taken the quotes away. It's official now.
Sure.
And
right here, right now.
But you play guitar and stuff too, right? Keyboards, your little...
a little bit. I dabble, but I am not. I would not say an expert in anything. We play with some extremely talented musicians in the group that we play with. Both our drummer Chris and our lead guitarist Nathan are, I would say, actual fantastic, amazing musicians. But I feel like I'm just kind of supporting the group.
Well, it's a good bass role.
It's a great bass role for our band.
But, it's crucial though, and you definitely hold down the bass. It's a pleasure to play with you, and I don't know. It's been cool just hearing different people's inputs and stuff when we've even covered in between days. Which I was even a little like, I don't know, maybe we should pick a more obscure song or something. But you had like brought it to the forefront idea of like maybe doing a Cure cover, and I was like, I don't know, man. But at the same time, it's such a catchy, great song that that is like one that you can crank out, and hopefully any level Cure fan at a show would be like down for hearing that. And I feel like we've been nailing it, but it's kind of funny going back to your point of like us and the members and such. Like I'm still not 100% sure Nate or Chris have actually heard the actual Cure version of In Between Days.
I think that's right.
And that's cool because part of me is like, oh my god, no, we can't touch this sacred song. But then I'm like, but it's cool because you can kind of hear the differences, and it's been fun for me anyway to put that super like nerdy side up to the side and be like, let's just hear where it goes and what happens if something feels a little bit, makes it our own a little bit, because that's always the never-ending struggle with covers, is you gotta kind of make it your own, but you don't butcher the song and all that, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm now at the level of fandom where I'm a proponent of covering basically any
Yeah,
Cure
you're down for
song.
All right, awesome. So when this all falls apart, we'll just do our Cure tribute band. And
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
We're gonna need a very big budget for wigs, I think.
Right on. So yeah, growing up, when did you start playing music? I guess have you been playing anything long, or what was the first thing you picked up?
First thing I picked up was saxophone, actually, alto sax in grade
could
school.
Be incorporated into some Cure covers. You could.
Yeah. I had this amazing teacher who was actually one of the Commodores with the Navy, which was really interesting. And he was teaching in Northern Virginia, where I grew up and where you grew up as well. And he really inspired me to kind of expand my horizons, and I jumped from saxophone to flute, and from flute I jumped to piano, and then I picked up guitar because I realized that guitar was a lot cooler. And then everybody was playing guitar in middle school, and so I thought, well, maybe I'll just start playing bass here and there on the side and do whatever I can as sort of like a supporting role in a lot of these groups. And so it just kind of became a jack of all trades sort of situation. Never really master of none of any instrument, but just started playing whatever I could so I could play as much music as possible with as many people as I could.
Yeah. It was kind of the same deal where I started on piano, just taking piano lessons. I always liked piano, but then I realized if I was gonna get up and have to like sing or anything like that too, it's like I can't be sitting there like playing piano and singing, especially in the 90s. That was not a time for it.
Wasn't a big market for that.
No, so the guitar had to be by default, and I still feel like I play like a piano version of a guitar when I play. I'm just like, let me just play the chords I need so I can sing what I need. Just get this out of the way. But that's cool. So I didn't realize you dabbled in some bass earlier on and stuff too. I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, no, my first few bands that I joined were as a bassist. Yeah.
Cool.
But they were just like, garage bands basically. They weren't anything particularly special, and they were all cover bands basically. Yeah. Of stuff that we were listening to.
I'm all for playing covers and stuff. I feel like you always end up learning something. Like, at least 75% of the songs I've written have all been like just because I was like keen on doing some cover. I'm like, oh, that's a cool little songwriting trick, and then you just do that for your own song, and hopefully you don't rip it off too much.
That's kind of another funny point, because the more I delve into the Cure catalog and the more I delve into your catalog, I found some similarities, some crossovers, and we've talked about that before.
Yeah, it's weird. For as much as I obsess over them, I think it's just because I'm not good enough to rip them off as good as I'd like to. But at the same time, a lot of the they're more nods really, where I know that I'm doing it. Like there's other bands I'm way more guilty of. Like, ooh, that's like the exact same chord progression and melody. But it's like, I don't know, with Cure stuff, I have moments, but I feel like they're just so unique, and I just put them on such a pedestal that I feel like, whatever I'm writing, it's not going to come anywhere near that, But
well, and you must be able to recognize it immediately as soon as you start playing it. Like, this is actually from
so I'll
this.
Pull the plug before it's even written, because I'm just like, I can't do that. That's a Cure song, but definitely, certain little things. Like we play one song in our set that's like, basically the chords to a forest, but I had written it kind of with that in mind though, because like as a lot of Cure fans out there know, like a lot of the live versions, especially around the Wild Mood Swings era in the 90s, he would just kind of freestyle near the end. So if you find some like live versions of that, he'll just like make up a whole lost verse at the end, and he had one that was in Brazil, I believe, or something. He's like, "Oh, you have a toad," and I was like, I'm gonna co-write a song with Robert Smith. So I just wrote like a completely different song that has like different rhythm but same chords, and then the chorus is "All You Ever Do." So like I totally snagged all that.
Well, you should post that for people to listen
man,
to.
Put a link to
side
it.
by side, put a link to it. Yeah.
I feel like our full band version's better than that. I used to just have like an acoustic-y, with keyboard noises version way back when. But so it's fun to just kind of do deliberate rip-offs like that. I feel like they're more of a nod or something than like a rip-off. But who knows? Robert Smith ever was really offended. I'm sure I would be just as flattered to never play the song again if he personally asked me to. But anyway, so musically growing up then, so that's cool. When did the sax start? Was that like middle school? Or
when you start taking music in elementary school, before you
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an exciting time. So that's when I started my piano lessons in middle school and shit. But cool. What
when you get off the recorder and they actually give you a real instrument to play,
banging on something.
Yeah.
Dude, what kind of actual like listening music growing up, like as a wee little lad and such? What was the first kind of music you were exposed to?
I've got 3 older sisters who are all very different personalities, and with older siblings, and being the youngest sibling in a somewhat large family, you get the hand-me-downs. And so with all of them being so different, I had one sister who was really into jam bands and really into Fish, Grateful Dead. So I got a lot of those albums. I had one sister who was really into classic rock, so it was a lot of Zeppelin.
That's cool.
And then I had one sister who was really hip. But I guess this could kind of go into the jam band category. Of the day growing up in Northern Virginia, everybody was listening to Dave Matthews Band, Ben Harper, Agents of Good Roots, Jack Johnson, that kind of stuff. And being a very impressionable young boy, not wanting to get beat up by my older sister.
You gotta just roll with it.
Yeah, just roll with it.
Yeah, well, it makes you diverse. You get a little everything. And the weirdest ones from. Oop, sorry. It was a Cure song, at least.
Yeah, there you go.
It fits the theme. But silence your phones, people. My brother is definitely. I think that's always like where we try to trace back people's origin stories and Cure or just music in general. It's funny to see. It's usually like some cool older friend in high school if they don't have siblings, or if they're the oldest sibling, or having older siblings seems to be. And that's definitely my case, where I got everything from my brothers. A little bit from the love of music from my parents, but not so much specific records were passed down. Like you hear other stories from kids was like, that golden time when my mom or dad handed me their vinyl collection or something, which always fits in. But you get some weird stuff from your older siblings. I got,
and it was so eclectic. Too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just a weird mix of stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, that's the best way to do it, though. Because my brothers were definitely like the new wave stuff I got from them. But then they got, because they went to military school, and like there's a lot of dudes from like Virgin Islands and stuff. So they got super into reggae stuff. Like my brothers were like really into it and still love it, And I have like a soft spot for it because of that. But like nothing I would.
It's not really your vibe.
Yeah, I would never try to deliberately put it into a song or anything other than like a cool bass line.
What was the first album that you bought? By yourself, of your own volition, out of curiosity.
I kind of break it up into different categories. We had like
that you remember.
Yeah, somewhere in between.
Back when people used to pay for music.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually buy physical
copies.
Yeah,
some kind of like check from grandparents for a holiday, and we went to Sam Goody at the mall or something. I got the Fat Boys was one tape that we bought early on. The Fat Boys, the rap band. Do you know them?
I'm not
it's
familiar.
Like the Fat Boys all back. It's like 3 fat dudes, and they rapped. And they're kind of like funny rap, But like they had like the human beatbox was their dude.
I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, you'll love it. They got some good shit. And the Bangles are somewhere around there, if not the exact same day, like Walk Like an Egyptian album, whatever that one was called. And so that was probably early on, first like tape, but then like I just snagged stuff from my brother. It was like Men at Work was one of the first ones that I really just loved. But then like the first like real ones, like middle school age. That was the beginning of your
love with Australian music?
Maybe, yeah. It's weird that it stems back to them.
Yeah.
It's always in there, I guess. And
Colin Hay.
Yeah. And then maybe along those lines, first like really like knowing I love The Cure from tapes that I'd gotten from my friend. Like I went out and bought Boys Don't Cry and In Excess Kick on the same day, because I thought if this sucks, at least Kick I know is awesome. So like Devil Inside and everything on there. But so somewhere in all that is one of the first albums, but I don't know. So what was the first one you bought? Do you have a memory?
Well, it's actually kind of funny because in researching this,
also dates me of like the Bengals. I'm like, Jesus, you're old as fuck.
Nah, it's just a number. Anyway, but the first album that I bought of my own volition that was not inspired by my oldest siblings telling me to do it, basically, was "Is This It" by the Strokes.
Oh wow!
Which at the time, I'm 14, 15. I can't really remember how old I am. Because I didn't really have much money up until you're 14 or 15.
It's around
when you actually start working a part-time job,
right.
or mowing lawns or something like that. But it was actually kind of funny in researching this. You asked me to put together, the top, in my opinion, subjective bass lines of The Cure.
Cure bass lines, yeah. Which we will get to as a teaser.
As a teaser, yeah. That's coming up later.
To put that up at the top.
But the bassist for The Strokes, Nikolai, who I'm a big fan of, and very inspired by as a young, formative kid growing up in DC, actually said that entire album, Is This It? They just completely stole bass lines from The Cure.
Really?
And they were afraid to put the album out. He was afraid to put it out.
The whole album, huh? That's awesome.
And I've actually been looking for comparisons in research.
Yeah, I'll have to revisit it. I haven't listened to it in a long time.
I found a few. I'll play some of them for you later. But the closest that I found is the title track from that album, Is This It?
Yeah.
And then Love Song by The Cure. And I think those are kind of... I think those are kind of close in comparison. The tempo's a little bit different, obviously.
Yeah.
But
it is funny, like when you write the song, you always think it's the most like blatant rip-off of, and then you play it for some people, and then they're like, I don't hear it at all, and it's just like one of those things. You're always the first to call yourself out on it, or or you're just totally oblivious to it, and people are like, dude, that's the exact same
baseline,
But
and
that's cool, huh? Yeah, I'll definitely recheck that out. I love that album. I haven't listened to it in ages, but
I mean. The Strokes to me are probably like The Cure to you.
Yeah.
In a way. Well, at least the early work of the Strokes before they the last few albums I've kind of checked out. But I'm sure that's the same with you. The Cure
later
maybe in some way.
Yeah, as much as it always stings me a little to say it out loud, but the last few albums weren't that great. But certain parts, just being a fan that loves that band and that voice and everything, you're always gonna love something from it. But as far as comparing it to the older albums or something, definitely loses a little steam. But so that's your dream band podcast then? You're gonna start up the Strokes podcast? I always like to ask people what their podcast would be if they started up.
Podcast, what would it be?
Music ones are tough because you would have to just really...
No, I might go the movie route.
Yeah.
Or a play. I listen to a lot of podcasts. There's a great one about the West Wing.
Oh, yeah.
West Wing Weekly. Which, I would try and probably
the
choose...
show?
Yeah, the show.
Okay, cool.
I'd probably choose some obscure show that existed that has like 13 seasons that I could just do recaps of on a weekly basis of episodes.
It's a good premise, yeah.
And break down. But,
pick apart each episode. Yeah.
Just steal that IP.
Yeah, that's cool. A friend of mine, and I hope I'm not giving away his secrets because I don't know if he's ever started it, but he had a great episode, or a great idea for a podcast that I don't know if I hope he does it at some point if it isn't already out there, where he watches the last episode of a show he's never seen, like out of all the seasons, just the very last episode, and then they just speculate what the whole show is about. based on that last episode. It's like the only one they saw, and that'd be pretty awesome because you probably could like figure out the whole series probably if you didn't watch like the recap beforehand or something.
You know what? I take it back. My podcast would be called The Rush Hour Hour.
Yeah.
And it would solely be dedicated to the trilogy of
the
Rush Hour movies
Nice.
with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker.
That's ambitious, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, most people are like, there's no way you could talk about The Cure for more than like 13 episodes. I'm like, here we are. But movie would be tough. Keep it rolling after, 3 movies worth. But anyway, we sidetrack. Where were we at? As far as,
we digress.
So the Strokes, yeah, they and then from there, did you kind of always in that genre? You're like kind of liking that indie rock?
Well, isn't the Strokes in a way kind of the end of post-punk, which is what the Cure was
in the early stuff? Yeah, I would say like post-punk. I don't know. Maybe I'm just because I didn't really know what. I hate genres in general. I always screw them up and not really think about what it is. But I would say post-punk probably was done way before that. But I think they take that sound again and do it again and stuff. And I always heard like Strokes were always like people are always saying they were like ripped off the Velvets and stuff like Velvet Underground and stuff. Which I get the similarities, but I know other bands that I love even are way closer in sound. I think But so yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe because. it definitely was like an early 2000s sound like that, and even like Interpol and stuff are definitely more technically always associated with like Cure influenced bands and stuff. But yeah, that makes total sense that they would be in the same boat as that. So a lot of Cure influences out there. I think that they're a weird one because they are so like unique in the sense that I think people pick parts of the Cure in their influences. You know, like when they write.
Well, the catalog is the breadth of what they've created is so broad.
Totally. Yeah,
you can pull from so many different things. And,
right.
You know,
yeah, you could do a very sad song that's Cure-esque, or you could do a very poppy song that's Cure-esque, you know, and there's tons of bands that do that where they just pick out, you know, like we're saying, just the bass lines, or, you know, you could do a whole different sounding song but use a very Cure-like bass line, and this is more of a nod. And even when I write, I'd say like it is like the vocal melodies and stuff, even though I don't have anything near the voice of him or style, you know, like I have that kind of pop sensibility in my head from loving the Cure so much, so it's like that's in there. But, you know, I'm putting it over like a more country chord or something, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's so much to pick from, and I think being an active band, too, it's weird. And they have so much that it is hard. And it's weird because you don't really see them, like, cited in magazines much as, like, bands saying, like, The Cure, the way that they do, like, The Smiths or, like, a band that's done, like Joy Division or something. You know, I think it's easier to always say a band was an influence if they're done. You can't really say like something that's going still is an influence.
It's only appreciated after the artist is
dead. So I mean, even though a lot of people would probably consider the Cure done or might even think they're done, people are always a little afraid to cite them. I think because of that and because they have such an image thing.
But they're still producing and they're still. I mean, they're still playing. Like you were telling me they're playing. Big festival this year, right?
Yeah, this year is their 40th anniversary technically from when they put out their first single. So they're doing a huge show, just like a one-off festival show in Hyde Park in July. So it's coming up soon, and they're gonna do some crazy shit for that, I'm sure. Like even just their 2016 tour, all the shows were 3 hours long. You know, they're pulling from so much stuff, and then he's doing a thing where he's curating another festival that the Cure isn't technically playing, but he picked all the bands, and then he's gonna do some like show where it's just gonna be mostly Cure members like joining him on stage and stuff for like the big finale. But I'm sure like it's gonna be like an all-star jam of ultra rock heroes or whatever, you know. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of a big deal. So I mean, they're definitely relevant and, you know, still influencing people and picking these bands, which is pretty cool. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, and well deserved, I think.
But as far as like inspirations go too, like one of my favorite bass lines, specific, and I won't tell you what the ranking of it is yet because I know that comes later.
The finale.
The finale of
keep them on the hook.
But the bass line from Screw.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
It's a weird one.
Always.
And then one of my other favorite albums growing up. This is gonna age me, but the Hot Fuss by the Killers.
Yeah.
That opening track on that album is called Jenny Was a Friend of Mine, and I just see it's not the same bass line.
Yeah.
But it's just the same tone.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's almost imitation or flattering.
Yeah.
I can't.
And they're one of the bigger bands that have gone on record being big Cure supporters
Have
and
they?
New Order. Yeah, and like I think fairly recently, because then he did some solo stuff, and I think
Brendan Flowers.
Yeah, and I think
honestly I love both of his solo albums.
I like the early on stuff. I just haven't heard much of the other stuff, so I'll
play you
curious to
some
check
of it.
out. Yeah. But yeah, they covered. I think it was the Killers again. I don't know. It might be just his solo stuff.
Well, they've covered Shadow Play.
Yeah,
by
Joy Division. And they're named after New Order, like because in the New Order video they had the Killers on one of their bass drum or something like that for the Crystal video, I think it is, and that's where they got their name.
That's
and then
amazing.
I saw like some kind of just YouTube clip of them covering "Push," the Cure song, recently, and it sounded great. Yeah, it was a pretty cool cover. So I think he's definitely on the books for being an out fan of all those. You know,
because I'd always thought that they pulled more from David Bowie at the time when I first listened to it, but then as I started listening to The Cure
and
more,
they pull so much from Bowie and stuff too.
Speaking of bass lines, one of their very famous songs off that album, All These Things That I've Done, that bass line is actually pulled directly from David Bowie's Slow Burn.
Yeah.
He played them side by side.
Oops.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think they've talked about it before.
I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, they're pretty cool, and I like that. It's a good sound that more bands should be doing that. Fucking A, why not?
Yeah.
It's good. A lot worse bands get nicked. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Screw has a great bass line. There's so many good bass lines, and maybe that's a good time to address that. Just how much their bass player, The Cure's Simon Gallup, is definitely a beloved member of the band. Which is weird. Everyone's very passionate about pretty much everybody in the band. There hasn't really been even the ones that had falling outs and stuff. They've all kind of righted out over time, and people have a love for every member of the band, I think. But Simon's right up there with Robert because he's been with him pretty much through the whole.
Wasn't he his best man at his wedding?
Yeah,
or something
best man
like
at
that?
the wedding.
Yeah.
Not from the very start. So he missed the first album.
Right. For Imaginary Boys.
Yeah, so they got him, but specifically recruited out. It's something I didn't even really see until doing the podcast of how much they kind of sought him out and pulled him into the band when the direction he kind of wanted to change it up a bit and really liked Simon, so they pulled him in. And 11 of the 13 official albums, countless other little filler stuff. So that's pretty much all of it. They had a falling out after Pornography when everything fell apart.
I heard about that. There was a bar fight.
Yeah, it got brutal, and they just.
Who pays the bar tabs, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot more to it than that. I would imagine.
Yeah,
but it was a pretty heavy.
And we've run into similar things.
Yeah. So that time will come where we just go.
No.
But they're definitely tight, and and I think just fan wise, everyone loves him, loves the bass lines. How much, you never really know. Robert Smith's always super cool with crediting the full band for the songs, but he definitely, you hear the demos and a lot of them he's writing all the parts, So but when you hear Simon's flair on it, it's definitely would. And you can tell the album he doesn't, albums that he doesn't play on, you can tell it's not him for sure. And I think at this point for sure now, if for whatever reason Simon wasn't recording with Robert, it wouldn't be a Cure album. I think that would probably be the one thing that would make it, where he would have to either just do it as a solo album or not do it at all. I think they're, to that point where he's the other huge 50% of the Cure in a sense of.
Well, yeah, and I mean, for me, picking up bass again in the past year and playing with you in your group and listening more to The Cure and delving into it, definitely a huge inspiration. I mean, his style of playing, plays with a pick, looks good in a tank top.
Ooh.
Arguably the best hair in the band.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah.
I mean,
now,
But also just his
Robert
play
held
style.
it up. Yeah, but he's just I mean,
he doesn't
a great looking dude, super fit. And,
it's always just enough, and that's something that I just keep coming back to and looking at this top 10 list, that top 5 list that I came up with was. It's always just enough. Goes along with the melody. Doesn't go outside of that.
Yeah.
Isn't hogging the ball.
Yeah.
And that's that's exactly what you want a bass player to be.
Yeah.
It's a supporting role. You still want them to shine,
right,
but you don't want them to go outside of their lane.
Yeah, for sure. Even when it is a busier bass line, it's just a train track more where it's just bam, there it is, Fascination Street or something, where it's damn, that's a cool.
And it drives. And that's what's so great about listening to his work.
Yeah. Because, you feel certain cool bass lines are out there, but they get a little overly busy or a little overly simplistic, and, and they got to be fun as shit for him to play, or anybody, really, because they are just, fucking cool. And that would be the tough part for me with bass, and when I record bass parts for recordings and stuff, it's always well, that's cool, but I always just, start, drifting off 2 minutes into the song and get bored and oh fucking you miss it up because it's hard to be a robot and do something cool, and you know what I mean,
exactly.
Keep it down and because if you do it just certain doom doom it's oh god, how long's this song?
What am I doing for the next 6 minutes?
And and sometimes that helps the song, and sometimes it's just you need more, so it is a weird thin line, but they're notoriously great for not just coming up with the bass lines, but recording them well and getting those tones, and he's just got a great style. Yeah, it's pretty rad. So he's a cherished member of the band.
Absolutely.
Everybody loves him.
And that's not to say that Three Imaginary Boys, too, the first bassist.
Yeah. Dempsey.
Yeah.
Michael Dempsey, not Patrick Dempsey.
Not Patrick. Not Dr. Dream.
No, would have been a whole different band. But even so, it is weird how those songs, you forget sometimes that those aren't him, too. It is like, even though he was a totally different style bassist, they do merge well over time. Like the fact that, like, Boys Don't Cry or something wasn't him, like on the original recording. It's like, how is that not Simon? It's so weird. But he had some cool ass bass lines too, like that Grinding Halt one on the mix I made you. That's like one of my, that might be on my list. And, I won't say, but it's a cool bass line.
Object too from Three Imaginary Boys, very good bass line.
Well. Some cool ones for sure.
But they all make me first. I know. I think Simon Gallup's on record as saying that one of his favorite albums is the first Clash album.
Oh yeah.
Which
Yeah,
again,
sure,
going back to my point,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
you know, he wasn't the bassist on Three Imaginary Boys, but I just keep thinking that just it sounded like a Clash
it's very
song.
clashy. Yeah, for sure. All that. That's Wire, all that kind of poppier punk stuff, post-punk stuff. So it's definitely in the same vein. Buzzcocks and all that. Those are all there, like very. It's funny, just as a kid, I was like, wow, that's just so unique in its own self. And that album, I'm like, well, actually, that's probably their most least unique album. But at the same time, it's just cool because it's The Cure, It's like, how could that be the same band that makes Disintegration? That's crazy. But, have you taken a specific plan when you did decide to, maybe I'll listen to a Cure album? Did you just kind of blindly pick a few? Or did you, want to start at the beginning and work your way up?
I blindly picked a few. I started out at the beginning of the catalog and then just kind of jumped around, honestly. I travel a lot for work, so I've got a lot of free time on planes.
That's great. It's probably the best kind of listening environment.
Usually the flights are about an hour and a half long, which is the perfect amount of time to just kind of digest an entire album. So just put on a nice pair of headphones and just kind of drift off. And
cool. So were they kind of based on songs you knew, or were you just like, sounds like a good one?
Well, no, they were
like where you know the single from it or something, and then
no, I was happy and I was excited when I heard something that I recognized, but basically I was just doing it as homework because I'm in a band with
a dude
that's a huge Cure fan. It'd be nice to have something to talk about in between practices.
Like even if it totally sucked, that would be like, you're like, so what's with you in this band? It's like not that great.
Well, because you're so passionate about it, and it's, you see people who are out there who are very passionate about different things, and I just like to try and understand
where it's coming from,
and there must be a reason why, and
I'm still trying to figure it out too.
Well, I have found in my explorations that there is a reason for it. Within that catalog of music, there's so much.
Where are you at now? Have you listened to most of them, or half, you think? Or?
Most everything except for, I guess, some of rarities and B-sides.
Oh, wow.
Some of the newer stuff,
some of the later albums and stuff. So. Cool. So you've seen kind of the full spectrum then, I guess, of like...
Well, I've tried to, and and I haven't listened to them as much as I would have liked, obviously, going over. And in preparation for this and trying to come up with, a top 5-10 list of bass lines, I tried to delve as deep as I could and re-listen as much as I could.
Yeah.
And I pray that I've done a good enough job.
Nah, you're doing great.
Okay. We'll see.
But what about impressions then, based on, like, I guess going off of Disintegration knowledge and Grinding Halt then, like, just of the ones you have examined a bit closer and...
favorites of what I've liked so much, or
just how did the impressions change in a bit? Like, did you kind of like Disintegration more or less, knowing the stuff that came out before it and stuff that's come out last, or knowing that there's more to them than just being really sad?
Yeah, I hate to use this word because it's overused, but it's just so dynamic. It's across every single album has been different, and I've noticed that I've preferred during the wintertime. I like listening to Disintegration.
Okay.
During this beautiful spring that we've been having. I like listening to Wild Mood Swings.
Yeah.
There's almost like they've made these albums in a certain tone that can just be prescribed for almost seasons, for certain moods. It's just...
And I don't know if it is more of a factor just having that many, which I mean, for 40 years and 13 official albums, it's not an absurd amount, but at the same time, it is like 13 albums of a band. You can't cover a lot of moods, and especially for a band that always that unfairly gets lumped in as a gothy, sad, or it is definitely true at times, but for how much stuff that isn't that and a completely different mood and even variation levels of sad, each album has its own little mood.
Sad.
Yeah, happy sad and all that shit.
There's got to be some sort of weird German
word
for
there
this.
There needs a better word for it. Yeah, but yeah, that's cool. And yeah, I don't know. And yeah, it has been raining for 2 weeks now, I think. So
here in Nashville,
At the time of recording this, I think a lot of the country's getting this, I think. But I don't know. So I've definitely been tempted to throw in Disintegration and really dive into the again. But I'm still recovering from the Disintegration episodes where I listened to it way too much. Like no more Disintegration for a little while.
Does it really affect you that much?
The songs or the weather?
Both, but the songs specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I just have so many like emotions and stuff that I already go into it, like that's memories. Right. But then that's why I love them, because I'm still, they're still like picking up.
It takes you back to the time. And
place. But it's not like it's finished. Like a finished memory. Like I have some albums that all of them really, if something cool happens while I'm listening to it, I'll attach that new one to it. Like it's not like they're done, if that makes any sense.
Can I ask you maybe a personal question?
Sure.
Maybe a dumb question.
No dumb questions on this show.
Do you ever get so emotional when you listen to music that you actually tear up, that you actually physically have a reaction to it?
I have, definitely live, but just
in songs that you've written yourself.
My own songs?
No. Well, okay. Well, I thought that's what you were going with that. But...
No, I do. Yeah, it has to be. Usually, when I'm playing them at home or recording them. Actually, when I let the emotions of my own songs take over. Live, I'm usually so freaked out that I'm in front of people and stuff that I can kind of just play the song and shut it off.
Compartmentalize it.
Yeah, and it's been funner even with our band because we've been digging up a lot of my older songs and stuff that I've never played with a full band, so it's been fun.
That's got to be rough.
It's weird, but awesome in a sense because I know the songs well enough, and they're not really more complex ones or something, where I can kind of turn off the nerves and turn off the musicianship and just kind of channel weird shit. So it has been strange in a different kind of way, where when we've played shows, I've been able to kind of channel things from the memory of writing that song and like make me sing it better in a sense, I feel like. Mm-hmm. Or like I can kind of play the video in my head of what I wrote when I wrote it, mm-hmm. and stuff like that. Which when it's a newer song or something like that, I feel like the nerves kind of override it. It's more about just playing the song and not screwing it up.
Well, because
so it's been nice.
In like preparation for this conversation that we're having, like I was trying to kind of the thing that came across my mind was in thinking about like Disintegration.
Yeah.
Is it something that's objectively good? Which it is. We can say it's objectively good. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But is there also a certain element of it that it's just nostalgia. It's this sort of nostalgia, transportive.
Yeah, and
it makes you feel certain emotions that you felt when you were a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Listening to it for the first time.
Right.
And feeling a wave of emotions.
Yeah, and that's something that's come up a lot with all the albums and just The Cure in general. We always try to weigh how much is of it's nostalgia and how much is it a good piece of art, and and I think, and it's weird because it's kind of the blending of perfect storms for me in that sense. With Disintegration in particular, because it was the first new album I bought on its release date. Mm-hmm. As a fan, but it was like I was waiting for it to come out, so it was a very like personal album that way because I was excited and I already loved them, and it was just a sweet time of my life, like 6th grade, the most like impressionable kind of like whatever, I was anticipating this, and it just happened to be arguably their best album anyway. So I think it's like everything just kind of lined up to make that album like over the top amazing for me, but all the other ones too, like have their special weird little memories and associations, but at the same time, and that's why it's been fun doing the podcast, because I can kind of step aside and make myself look at it as like, if this was just an album I heard, it just came out today, would I love it as much? And sometimes yes, sometimes no, like certain songs I think definitely have worn off a little bit over the years, and some I like more, for sure.
Do you remember where you were the first time you heard it? You must have.
Disintegration?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah.
I'm sure you remember the details.
Yeah.
Of the day, exactly.
Yeah, for anything up. A lot of the other ones.
If there was that much anticipation for you,
So,
you probably remember the day.
Yeah.
Frame by frame.
And pretty much from there on up, all of them I had a specific thing in memory of.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the backtrack albums, I don't remember the first time I listened to it or what impression I even had of it. When I just, because he got 8 albums at that point all at once. I was like, it's hard to tell what really struck me. I was kind of just fast forwarding to the singles at first, and then you dig into the deep cuts gradually. But so I don't know. Do you have a favorite aside from Disintegration? Having started out knowing of Disintegration, has there been one that's toppled that as far as ones you like the most from
within that album?
No, just in general, the more recent diving into Cureness of has anything or do you think that one still holds up as your favorite?
It still holds up as my favorite, honestly,
because
it's the one that made the biggest impression on me, and I can't really get past that.
Yeah, it's a hard
mix of nostalgia and also just the feels.
Goes back to what we're saying. It's got so much going on that one too, because it is so heavy, but it still has popness and great songwriting. And I think as a band, that's why it worked so well for them, is because it was everything that he was trying to do and still being really good at just making. All the band had been together and they were meshing at that point. All the members and the popularity, everything was just coming together for the perfect storm of Cureness. Because then it starts to kind of fall apart a little after and a little before, So it's definitely.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
This is an open forum, right? In research for this, I didn't realize this, but Disintegration is part of a trilogy of albums. Yeah. Blood Flowers being one of them, Disintegration being one of them, and then Pornography is
the first. Yeah.
Okay.
But none of this really was ever announced or declared until after Blood Flowers. So he never said, I want to make a trilogy with Pornography, and he never said this was the second part of the trilogy with Disintegration. Sure. And even initially when Blood Flowers came out, he never said this is the third part of the trilogy. It was more I think they did the initial tour of Blood Flowers, but then they did a trilogy shows, and then he kind of, maybe in the interviews and stuff after Blood Flowers, they started to say it more. But it was clear that they were going back to certain things. Yeah. And Disintegration was weird because he was going back to the darker early stuff after doing a bunch of poppy stuff with Kiss Me, of Why Can't I Be You and all that. And so he was deliberately trying to make it darker like that album. And then Blood Flowers, I think, was a deliberate effort again after Wild Mood Swings to be let's get back to some dark shit. But he had never officially said that it was part of a trilogy, which I'm sure it is if he says it. And, there's references, there's no... People have been well, what's the connection though? That's kind of still, he's never flat out really said what it is. It's the whole storyline that connects them all, or maybe it is just that it's darker. Is the only really, who knows? But so they're all, and that's a great concert DVD or whatever if you ever want to check that shit out. I'm sure you've seen probably clips on YouTube or something. But they did the concert. I think in Berlin was the one that came out on it's just they play all 3 albums in a row. And that's pretty rad.
My YouTube queue is just now full of
pure shit.
Traditionally it's just basically full of Kimbra stuff right now because
nice.
Traditionally all I listen to, but now it's
okay, cool. Yeah, there's some good ones, and they're just such a weird live band too, where they're so good, but it is weird. He doesn't really move around much or anything. It's not really, you wouldn't think it would be that dynamic to watch, but for some reason you just kind of get pulled in, and it just sounds so good, and it's just perfect for me. With a live band of they sound different enough from the recordings. They don't do it. They kind of do it exactly like it, but it just sounds different. And it's so it doesn't sound like they're just getting up there and playing the record. It really does have its own emotions and stuff, all their live stuff. But at the same time, they just nail it. And they don't change shit up to be goofy or something. You know what I mean? Let's see. Any big turn-ons and turn-offs then, as far as the more recent diving into Cures? Have there been certain stuff where you're just cool, but I'm not going down that road with the Cure. We always like to talk about the negative too here on the Holy Hour, just to let people know it's not a giant.
I'm of the type of mind that I'm kind of open-ended in the sense that everything is some sort of expression, artistic expression, and
it's cool.
I might not particularly want to go back and re-listen to it.
Yeah,
but you know, I appreciate it for what it is. And so far, honestly, I really haven't come across anything that...
Complete duds, nothing?
Complete duds.
What were they thinking?
There's always something of value that I've found in re-listening and going through these albums. And I feel like I still have a little bit of the catalog to go through. I'm pretty positive there is. But so far, I haven't come across anything that has stood out as something that I wouldn't want to revisit.
Nice.
Yeah,
let's go.
No duds for me.
Yeah, a lot of the diehards even have their ones they stand by that they totally hate. Like, a lot of people get very polar.
What is it for you, out of curiosity?
Definitely don't hate any of it. It's strange enough. There's certain ones, like, a lot of people break it down to the poppy versus the dark, gloomy stuff. Like, some of them really hate, like Friday in Love always gets the example, but there's like kind of ones that aren't as good as Friday in Love. They're like like Mint Car or something on Wild Mood Swings, where it's like I love it. But some people like really hate it because it's just too poppy and it's too happy, and then they really like the dark, like the spiders and flies, and and people just kind of grab it. Some people like really throw down the gauntlet on like, oh, I hate that entirely. I won't even listen to it. But then there's heaps of fans that are just like, yeah, I like this a little more. I lean one way or more than the other. Yeah. I probably technically lean poppier. Really, I love like the sad shit when it's done like emotional more than dark, But yeah, I mean the pop is what reeled me in. It was like the in between days stuff that's like it's like got some weight to it, but it's just a fucking fun song. Even like Pictures of You, even though it's like super emotional, it's like catchy as shit.
It's still catchy.
And
absolutely.
It's like, so all those, but the least favorites, probably my only real gripes are just the last two later albums. I feel like the filler songs feel like just the writing isn't really there. But I mean, he's getting up there and he's on his 13th official album. I would never hold that to anybody, that you need to make amazing songs every track of 13 albums worth. That's like pretty hard to,
hey Gavin, how many albums have you put out?
Yeah, more, but don't think they're all anywhere near as amazing.
Let me just make it clear. Amazing albums. You've put some amazing
into
the world, and it's a shame.
I feel like if one's as good as the shittiest Cure song ever, then that I'd be happy. But I feel like it's just like his writing. I just it's more like the style. I'm like, well, what was he going for on some of those later ones, or just it isn't catchy and it isn't dark, And I feel like they could probably write
What's
that.
What's he trying to convey, sort of thing?
I don't know, and I'm sure they mean something to him, but it's just it's more like a bit disappointing in the sense that like. I feel like he could write that standing on his head kind of deal. So it's like, well, why did we have to wait 10 years for it? Or something? Like when the gaps get bigger, I just feel like, he could probably just, and who knows, maybe he has like, you hear that with a lot of the later albums that there's like, they recorded like 20 songs, they picked 8 or 10 or, and like some of them just don't make the cut for whatever reason. Maybe he's picking the wrong ones or something, as far as my opinion, whatever that's worth, but at the same time. So that's my only like, sadness is like through the tapering off of some of the songs that really like first listen, so many Cure songs on first listen I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing, I have to listen to this like 20 times in a row. And some of those newer albums I'm like, I don't know, I'll give it time and see.
Well, as one of the top 100 Cure fans,
maybe, hopefully I'm in that top 100.
Your opinion matters.
I don't know.
I think.
There's a lot of Cure fans, a lot of opinions for sure. But well, maybe we should do the finale top 5.
Delve into it.
Yeah, we should. We sent out the idea. I was like, well, maybe we should, since we're talking bass, we're talking music, and first and later impressions of Cure, what were your top 5 favorite bass lines in a Cure song? And even that in itself was like, well, just the bass line or the song that also happens to have a cool bass line. So my natural urge is to overanalyze everything. So I guess, did you take a perspective on your list as far as like just the bass line was cool? Or?
I tried to focus on the bass line.
Okay, cool. We'll do that.
Completely honest.
Yeah. Well, no, we'll take that out.
But
then.
You gave me an impossible task, and you told me to put the top 5 bass lines and I came up with a list of about 16 songs.
That's good. That means you did your homework.
And as I sit here right now, I'm actually drawing arrows back and forth between different things that I'm switching out.
It would be more questionable if you're like, yep, 5. That's all. I'm like, really? How did you come up with 5? There's so many. Yeah, it's a ton. So you passed the test already. There's no way.
Well, good. So we're off on the right foot.
Right. And I jotted down mine, but yeah, as the hour was approaching to hang out, I was already drawing.
I'm extremely interested to see how we
see if they match up. So let's count it down from 5, and then we'll talk about honorable mentions maybe.
Okay.
And did you have them in order, or did you do just 5? Because that'd be real tough if you were like.
Well, I went from originally I went from 10.
All right. Well, maybe do 10. Let's do 10.
You can do it. You only
10.
Prepared 5.
Yeah, that's all right.
You good?
I talk about them all the time.
All right, all right.
Let's hear top 10.
Which it should be probably higher, but my number 10 is Sinking.
Okay, nice. Yeah,
love that bass line.
Maybe my number 1 actually. I haven't officially committed to it,
failed.
We already matched up. I think we have to say that they're not a countdown. Maybe just in the top 10, no particular order. Unless that
takes the pressure off, definitely.
Yeah, I think so. It's impossible. The right day. But if you want to do yours in order, definitely don't let me stop you. Okay, so 10, Sinking. All right,
number 9. Love Song.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
That's on my list.
Okay. I got the thumbs
top
up.
2 already. And actually on my list, they're the ones in that order. Sinking, Love Song. Weird, huh?
All right, it's happening. The stars are aligning.
All right. Poppiness, like Sinking just carries the depth of that song.
That whole album is bass bangers.
Yeah.
I love
so much is like just awesome bass lines in that whole album. And Love Song's like somehow, even though it's kind of sad, that bass line just grooves.
My list is going to be so goddamn controversial.
No way.
All right.
So far, we're great. What you got?
Number 8, I put in Let's Go to Bed.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I just like that bass line.
Interesting one. Yeah. But yeah, I can see it.
All right.
Got the cool. Yeah, what you got?
Number
we
7.
don't have to dwell on each one. I just like
beyond that.
Let's talk about Let's Go to Bed. All right, number 7.
Noted. Number 7, I put Other Voices.
Yeah, that's a good one. I have a side note that's close to that one. Yeah.
Okay.
I was torn between that and another. So. Continuing.
Yes. Number 6, I put Grinding Halt.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure was higher on your list.
No, I didn't put mine in order really. So.
Okay, you were just right.
But it was probably actually lower on mine. Maybe because I knew it isn't Simon, but I love the bass line. So. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like I'm eliminating your top 5 list.
Yeah, you're pretty much
5 through 10.
No, I don't know.
So what are my 1 through 5
I don't
going to
know.
look like
That's going to
comparatively?
be interesting. Let's see.
All right. Where am I at?
6 maybe? After Grinding Halt.
Okay. I'm at Club America.
Ooh, wow. That's a controversial one to pick.
Is it?
I think. A lot of people don't like that song. Myself, maybe a little. But I like the bass line.
I like the bass line. You told me to do bass
lines.
Yeah. I'm not focusing on the song.
Okay, that's fair then. But yeah, cool bass line for sure. Interesting though. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, where am I at?
We should do a whole Club America episode next.
Yeah?
I don't know. I have nothing to say about
it. All right, am I at number 5?
Okay.
Disintegration.
The song. Or just the whole album?
The song.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Could be the whole album.
Yeah.
I tried to not put...
Yeah, that was... I hit that snag where I was like, shit, I wrote like 3 disintegrations in a row.
I don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, it's up there with Head on the Door.
I want to have a variety of it.
Yeah, that one's rad. Just such a cool... Like we're saying with the kind of badass train tracks laying it down. Just... Yeah, that's such great tones too. And it's just
absolutely.
Very cool.
All right,
so after that. So what are we at? 4?
4.
Okay.
Put Forest.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Shit, I forgot about that one. Shit, I always forget about a Forest. It's because I ripped it off. I guess
yeah,
I'm trying to block it out.
Subconsciously, you've eliminated it from your consciousness. All right, and this was I went back and forth a lot with my 3-2-1 situation, but 3 I put Screw.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Which, I mean,
not personally as attached, but I do dig the bass line. So,
it's just it's different.
Yeah.
And for me, it kind of highlighted itself on that album as something that was unique, and I was drawn to it automatically the first time I heard it.
You hear the sliding on the strings. And
I just appreciated the tones.
Cool.
All right, am I down to my 2? Am I 1? All right, number 2, I put Mint Car.
Wow, yeah, I love that bass line too.
And I've just been feeling that album so much since it got warmer out and
good springtime
it's happier.
Album. Yeah, it is a good spring album.
And honestly, that song reminds me of a song that you also wrote.
Really?
Do it again a little bit.
Oh,
I don't know. And I feel like when I play it live, I feel like I'm imitating that bass line a little bit. Yeah, I'm going for a Mint Car thing.
Yeah, it's weird because I kind of had written a song of mine trying to be not so much Mint Car, but still in that vein of like just a Cure, like memory, happiness pop song. Mm-hmm. But then we've been kind of playing it more countryfied too. Like Nate's guitar parts has the little bends and like
yeah.
So it's weird, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, initially I totally wrote it being more of a Cure ripoff, like probably like a. Not, even though it doesn't sound anything like Just Like Heaven or something, but in that vein of like a poppy, but like where you're telling some kind of vague story of, so that's cool. Yeah, I love the bass line for Mint Car. I don't, even people that are anti Mint Car, I think would have to stand by that bass line's rad.
All right, and
so that was number 2. What'd you got for your number 1 all-time?
My number 1, America. You didn't vote for it.
Yeah. We're really building this up like Survivor.
Another Journey by Train.
Whoa, yeah, that's a great one. It's all bass.
Join the dots. It's all bass.
Didn't even think of that one. That was the most obvious. Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
so you approve?
Oh yeah,
I did okay.
Solid list. I think everybody would be on board with no shit bass lines in that one. But
now I just want to mention though, after that, honorable mentions of my list of 16 that I did not throw out. Just close down really quickly. Primary, which I love that song. Torture, Object from 3 Imaginary Boys. I love all those songs.
Great.
It was impossible to come up with it's a top list.
You were never going to win this war of finding
the
perfect combo. Yeah, and I feel like even I cheated because I just thought of like song too much, so I think that's probably why I didn't think of even like Another Journey by Train or something, just because it's like awesome song, but it's never like one of my like this is a top 5 you have to listen to a Cure song. But that bass line's fucking
because I was just focusing on
those are some great live ones of that too when they go into it, and like really cool. Awesome, man. Well, most of mine were in the same vein. I think all of them got covered. I had guess they're kind of in order without even realizing it. Top 5 I did to narrow it down. Grinding Halt I had as my 5th one, even though I love it, just because it isn't Simon, like I said. 4 I had a tie, so maybe it will be 10 by the time I do all my ties. I just tied all of them. Either A Play for Today, which is off of one of the early albums that was like
got that written down here, 17 seconds.
Yeah. And Faith off the next album, just a good sad bass line. It's very like Disintegration Before Disintegration, so that one's like a good sad bass line. 3-way tie for number 3 is Fascination Street. Even though I'm kind of sick of the song, it's just a badass bass line. It'd be so fun to just crank that out at every show if I played bass. I'm like, and Pictures of You, even though because I love the song, the bass line's super simple, but it just sounds so good. And Hanging Garden, also in that vein of like just it's all like 3 notes, but it just sounds so good. That one was similar with Other Voices, like what I was thinking of yours, where it's just definitely more going on Other Voices, but like where it's like not so much any like whoa that's so complex and crazy. Even a lot of these, they're not really like hard bass lines for a lot of them, but they're just so unique and like have great tones, and catchiness is through the roof. And then the last 2 just being Love Song for its groove, and Sinking just kills me every time. My number all time, just because I could listen. I think Sinking is like if you just played the bass line and sang over that would pretty much, I mean all the other shit in the song's amazing, but like really that's all you need. So I could just listen to that bass line all day, and but pretty cool. The majority of those synced up, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good list. I don't know, man. So I guess any closing Cure thoughts? Thanks so much for being a part of this.
Thank
If I
you
didn't
for
nerd
having
out
me,
too
man.
hard
I'm
in front
honored.
of you, you'd be like, whoa, I finally just saw him lose his shit entirely. I knew it was coming, but I didn't think it would get this weird. But wasn't that bad, hopefully?
No,
Okay.
thank you so much for having me. It was amazing.
Cool. Well, hopefully we'll get you back and we can, after you dive into any others, and we can pick apart something else. Maybe, like you said, for the Wild Mood Swings episode, you'll be my one person that can back me up.
I'll be here.
Thanks. I'm going to talk
I'm
to
on
Donald,
call.
man. It's going to be brutal when I do that episode. So, thanks, man.
Thanks, bud.
All right, so now is your chance, listeners. Chime in on the Facebook page for the Holy Hour podcast. We'll have a thread going. And if we missed your favorite bass line, or if you want to agree or disagree with our choices of the best bass lines, it's all there. So I'd love to hear from you on that one. And go on over there. And be sure to subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss any episodes of the Holy Hour podcast. If we get a little out of order or something, you don't want to miss it. So make sure you'll catch a new episode as it appears. Subscribe on iTunes. And also follow us on Instagram, the Holy Hour podcast, because that's where we throw out little feelers for new episodes and upcoming episodes, such as the next one coming up. We're going to hopefully do a covers episode again, but this time I really want to feature listeners or Cure fans. You don't even have to listen to the show like much, but if you have a cover laying around that you did way back in the day on your little 4-track Tascam tape track recorder back in college, or if you've got the whole setup now and you just want to knock one out just for this show, that would be great. I want to hear fan covers, the unknowns, and so send away to gavinconner@gmail.com. If you already have it posted somewhere, that would be great. You can just send me the link, and then I can put that link in our thread too. But if you just have the MP3s, send that to me. I'll figure out a way for others to hear it, and we'll put snippets at least of it in the episode, and it'll be cool to hear people's process for recording and how they did it and the stories behind why they chose that song. So send away. We want to hear from you guys on this one, and that'll be cool. So, once again, thanks again to Erik. What a class act, huh? He knew his shit, throwing in another Journey by Train at the end. That's no surface level greatest hits fan there. So, be fun to chime back in. Maybe we'll do another one and do best guitar solos or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we hope you guys are doing good out there. Thanks for listening. A lot of big Cure news on the horizon. By the time this posts, less than 2 weeks from or I guess less than a week for the Meltdown Festival, and then the curation part of that festival will be about 2 weeks from now. So if you're out there experiencing all that, feel free to get in touch. Tell me how it goes. I would love to hear your stories of what the hell's actually going on in that festival, and especially that final night when Robert does, who knows what he's going to do, who's going to join, but it's all coming up. Hyde Park's right around the corner too. I know a lot of you guys going to that, so I got to live through you. So be sure to keep us all in the loop, and yeah, have a good summer. So until then, be sure to also check out Chaz's t-shirt website where he's selling these awesome Cure shirts. I just got my In Between Days one in the mail, and gonna look good tomorrow putting that on. Yeah, buddy. It's go on over to 17secondshirts.bigcartel.com, and maybe you can grab some of the leftovers one. There's a primary one that just got posted that's awesome. So I might get to my goal of 31 shirts before the end of the year at this rate, so who knows. And of course, Arusha Baker has a Cure project she's working on, the documentary Push, and you can check all the progress of that out at curefandocumentary.com. And of course, remixgifts.com is always a great way to spend your time surfing the internet and finding the coolest of cool gifts out there. So go check that all out. We'll catch you soon. I've been Gavin. Thanks again to Erik, and we'll catch you next time. Talk hard.